With more on all of Friday's action, let's welcome in CBS Sports senior college hoops writer Matt Norlander. Matt, we got to begin with the biggest shocker of the night. Oklahoma State taking down Baylor. A complete effort led by none other than Cade Cunningham. I'll let you go on both sides of this one, but just how impressed have you been by the way that this Pokes team has rallied over the last month?
Insanely impressive. I mean, I remember talking to Mike Boynton during the middle of February, just kind of casually discussing their upcoming schedule and the unknowns at that point with what the Big 12 would do with rescheduling and trying to figure out where Oklahoma State would need to get wins just to make sure it was a lock. Like, it was clearly heading toward the NCAA tournament, but at a certain point you gotta lock yourself in. And to think that Oklahoma State has lost once in the past month, and it was on the road against Baylor. Cade Cunningham continues to make that case for being the #1 overall pick later this year in the NBA draft. But I got to point out Avery Anderson. I mean, the way that he has been able to elevate himself alongside the likes of Isaac Likely. I'm not going to make a direct analogy here, okay? But I am telling you, I'm getting some slight Syracuse 2003 vibes with this Oklahoma State team. Not the best team not the best team in the field. Not going to be a 1 seed. Has a stud one-and-done player that's going to be an elite draft pick who can take over games and do it when it matters most. And they have some good three-point options there. So we'll see. They're a Final Four threat, and I think they can actually get to the 2 line if they win the Big 12 title game on Saturday.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Matt Norlander, weaving some narrative here as we move towards tournament. Elsewhere, Florida State punched their ticket to the ACC title game, outlasting North Carolina, back-and-forth battle. It'll be the Noles and Georgia Tech in the conference championship. Call me a purist, Matt, but I'm not sure what to make of this matchup lacking its usual blue bloods.
Yeah, let's not deny it. This is weird. I mean, this is just, we're going to look up on Saturday. Georgia Tech versus Florida State for the ACC title, and Georgia Tech obviously got a walkover, if you will, to get into the title game, not having to face Virginia there. Good for Florida State. It has been just about a month since it beat a team projected to even be in the NCAA tournament. It gets that critical win against the Tar Heels on Friday night, doing so in a way that I think will remind some folks, and you know, to be fair, they might need to win the ACC tournament championship to go into the field and remind folks that they're good enough to make a Final Four. Well, it depends on the bracket and the matchups and all that. But this team just hasn't played a ton of games in the past 2.5 weeks or so. It shows up, plays well, beats a Carolina team that kind of had found itself as of late there. So good on FSU. Don't overlook them in your bracket. We'll have to wait and see what the matchups are. As for Georgia Tech on Saturday, by the way, I mean, it's got a real wonderful opportunity to take that game. It can win. I would lean Florida State's going to win the game. But actually, the way both of those teams are built, I think it's got a really, really good shot of being. We've had a wonderful array of close games the past couple of days here. The Georgia Tech, Florida State, actually, I think it'll be another close game with about a minute or so to go.
So despite the marquee matchups from a name brand standpoint, we could be in store for some good action in the ACC. I'm not sure there's been anyone more exciting to just blindly root for over these last few days than Georgetown. Upsets over Marquette, top-seeded Villanova, and Seton Hall on Friday. Not to go Joe Public here, but is there an air of destiny surrounding the Hoyas, or are they just destined for defeat in the title game?
No, I don't think they're destined for defeat. This is a wonderful story here. I mean, Georgetown is a bid thief. We got a couple of them out there for Saturday. Keep an eye. We'll see about Sunday as well. And the fact that Georgetown does this after losing so many players off last year's roster. John Thompson Jr. dies in the offseason. Patrick Ewing is coaching this team. The god of that program, you know, shuffles off the mortal coil. Georgetown has an underwhelming season. It's seeing former players like James Akinjo and Mac McClung do well at their spots in different parts of the country. It enters into this Big East tournament without any kind of outside expectation. It pulls off a win against Seton Hall. You know, Ewing, that man at the Garden, coaching his alma mater, getting them back to the Big East title game for the first time in 11 seasons. We've got a potentially amazing March story. It's going to take one more win, but the only thing missing from all of this, man, if only we lived in a time where the Garden could have had a heavy faction of Hoya backers, what it must have felt like if we could have done it. But getting to the title game is amazing. By the way, last thing, we talked about this on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. I want Ewing to show up at the Garden Saturday donning his Knicks jersey. No credential. You need to know who I am. Know who I am. Just strut in there. Make it happen.
Forget the Knicks jersey. Just bring the short shorts and the knee pads, maybe. They'll even know you off that. But they better know Coach when he walks through that door. We do have to mention the war of words here between Juwan Howard and Mark Turgeon. The midst of Michigan's win here on Friday overshadowed a bit. These Big Ten coaches have had no problem getting chippy the last couple weeks. What'd you make of the most recent spat?
To be honest, look at this.
That's weird.
We have Mark Turgeon going after Juwan Howard. How did they think that he was? How did he think I was going to go? What? Mark Turgeon, like, you also kind of have to know Mark Turgeon. Like, the idea that this would have even happened is phenomenal to me. I mean, oh my gosh, he was fired up. And he did apologize after for his reaction. I get all that. Michigan is creating rivalries left and right. Like, we've got the Illinois one with the Big Ten regular season championship. We've got a Maryland battle that no one outside of those programs really even realized existed there. So my takeaway is I can't believe Mark Turgeon actually stepped to Juwan Howard. What? Michigan moves on. We've got a wonderful set of semifinals on CBS Saturday in that tournament, 1 versus 5 Ohio State, and then you've got a great Illinois-Iowa matchup. So a lot of good stuff there, but we could not mention that because we've had no shortage of buzzy, interesting things. We've been waiting for this kind of weekend in college hoops for 2 years.
It's that time of year. Everybody's ready to flip the switch. Tempers running high. But we also must make mention of the trio of withdrawals here. Duke, Virginia, Kansas all bowing out of their conference tournaments due to positive tests in their programs. What can you tell us about the tournament availability, at least in the case of Kansas and UVA?
Right, Duke is done. So here's the latest on this from what I can gather here. So Kansas is optimistic that it's going to be able to travel to Indianapolis. We just don't know the details yet of how many players are in contact tracing quarantine, and the same goes for Virginia. And I'm told Virginia is actually working with local health officials just to determine what is going to be allowable in terms of how many people would be able to travel. The details are critical. Virginia and Kansas have until the 11 o'clock hour on Saturday night to notify the NCAA whether or not they will be able to meet the thresholds necessary in order to travel to Indianapolis to participate in the NCAA tournament. The big unknown, still unknown, waiting to hear more on all this is if Virginia essentially goes to the NCAA and says, we can travel with some of our team on Sunday, but the rest of the team can't get there until Thursday because they have to provide 7 consecutive negative tests while in contact tracing isolation. They're going to be in the bracket anyway, and then maybe some other players might come after. We don't have all the answers, but I'm told they're trying to figure out exactly what that process is going to be. Both teams are optimistic, and hopefully they're going to be able to participate. But we will have answers one way or the other. We know the deadline. They have to let the NCAA know by the end of Saturday night. So we will learn the fates of Kansas and Virginia as it pertains to their eligibility for the NCAA tournament in less than 24 hours.
Plenty of moving parts moving forward, and we will move with Matt Norlander. Thank you, Matt. For more from Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish, be sure to download and subscribe the Eye on College Basketball podcast. It is the premier podcast in college hoops. And now's the time of year. No better time to get involved than right now. Download and subscribe for all your...
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.